don't panic. Don't rely on your emotions. If you don't need to log in, if you don't need to check your portfolio on a regular basis, you don't have to. The more you check, the more emotional you become. The more you check, the more fear, the more uncertainty, the more doubt will start bubbling in your head. In the first video, I tried to make sense on what's happening in the market, what's causing this from cryptocurrencies to stock market. What should you look for in terms of parameters that could possibly cause this to rebound or actually be better? And in this video, I just want to talk about what are you supposed to do while all of this is happening. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about here, I have discussed in earlier videos or even in the seminars that I have been conducting, or a lot of the things that I have been sharing to all of you. When you look at markets, regardless if it's the stock market or the crypto market or the forex market, they all move in cycles. There will be booms, there will be busts, there will be bullish markets, and there will be bearish markets. Before me discussing that, I want to share more of this, that what you do in the midst of those markets will determine how profitable you will be also as an investor, how you get to use those markets to be able to serve you and bring you closer to whatever financial goals or plans that you actually have. When one cycle ends, another cycle will start, and that cycle that starts at some point also later on will also end. And that's why I keep hammering this, that when the market is good, please do remember that it won't last forever. In the same way, when the market is bad, please do remember that it won't last forever. They just move in cycles, and what you do while it's down will determine also how you will be when it's up. In the same way, what you do when it's up will determine how profitable you will be based on how you planted when it's actually down. I want to address people who are long-term into this, and when I say long-term, your time horizon, you really, one of the narratives and why you're investing into this is you want to follow your plan, or regardless if it's for retirement, regardless if it's for business, regardless of what it is, you're investing because you have extra disposable cash that you don't plan to touch, but you want it somehow to grow for you as an asset class. And if you're looking at it from that perspective, isn't it the main goal is if it's low, if it's significantly at a discount, then you would be at a better position, provided that what you're investing on is something that's good. I'm not a big fan of just buying something blindly because it's low. I'm a big fan of spending the time, doing the work, putting in the effort to find out which stocks, which cryptocurrency projects are worth putting your hard-earned capital on, because at the end of the day, you can't buy everything. In the midst of drops like this, you won't be able to deploy everything in as much as you want to go. And my strategy in all of this right now is just to be very, very selective, to put in a lot more time and attention and effort on the ones that I think and I believe will be there, on the projects that I think and I believe will stand the test of time. Will they stand the test of time really? We don't know. There's a lot of things that could possibly happen also that could interrupt it, but you can't fault yourself for deploying capital based on the decisions that you make from information that you spent a lot of time to digest. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't play a perfect game, and if you are at the point right now where you lost money from your investments or you made wrong decisions, it's not the end. Use whatever learnings that you have from that. You mine it, you get what you can learn from it to enable you to be better, to make better decisions also when it comes later on. Because at the end of the day, if you're at a point in your life that you're young, whatever mistakes that I made, I could learn from it, but above and beyond that, I have greater years ahead of me where I could use the learnings from my earlier years to make better decisions in my present and to position me better also for my future. That being said, when you know that it's cyclical, it causes you not to panic because you know what is up from a certain season, from a certain cycle, will come up in the next. And if you have extra, it allows you now to plant seeds, to stockpile, to build a base, to accumulate on the ones that you know are really, really good. And it doesn't mean that if you stockpile, you build a base, you just add today, it doesn't mean it's not going to go down. No one knows that, and no one has a crystal ball if this is the lowest that it will ever be. but it allows you already to form something. And the name of the game really is volume. How much you've accumulated, how big you've accumulated. And one way for you to actually do it also, when there's a greater amount of fear, when everyone's scared, when everyone doesn't want to come in, when everyone doesn't know where it's actually gonna go, when people think that there's blood in the streets, that's where you get to start to come in. That's where you get to stockpile. That's where you get to build a larger base. Again, I'll never stop saying this, that please spend a lot of time to do that on crypto projects or stocks that matter. Don't just creep into something just because it's cheap or it looks discounted. It has to be something that you believe and you know and you spend a lot of time. It doesn't matter if it's just Bitcoin, if that's what you know the most. It doesn't matter if it's just Ethereum, if that's what you know the most and that's what you believe that will be there. It doesn't even matter in the stock market if it's Apple, Tesla, if it's Microsoft, if it's Google, if it's Amazon. It doesn't matter if that's what you know, if that's what you believe, that when it drops even further, should it drop even further, you have firm conviction and you know what you're gonna do. I think you're supposed to be okay. I think that's how you're supposed to go about it. That's how you're supposed to fight. That's how you're supposed to win. That's how you're supposed to be able to look at it, that as one asset class is in a current cycle, it allows you to position, build a base, accumulate, that as it starts to push up again, what you sowed when it was low is something that you will reap when it's higher. Knowing that it's a cycle, you should use this time to continue to learn and build a conviction on what you're getting into, on what you are buying, on what you are setting aside money on. I highly believe that that's so important, because if you're not fully convinced on what you're getting into, it's easy for you to panic. It's easy for you to rely on your emotion. It's easy for you to sell. It's easy for you to listen to the crowd. It's easy for you to listen to what everyone else is saying. And if you listen to everyone else, you will end up like everyone else. And everyone else isn't really doing as well. Everyone else is just barely getting by. Everyone else is barely scratching the surface of the possibilities that's out there. I want to urge you to spend the time to go the extra mile. It will be boring. It will be hard. It will be tedious. It won't be the things that everyone else is doing. But if you pull it off, if you do it well, it will allow you to be a master of something. And that's why even for cryptos and stocks, you don't have to buy a lot. If you're not purposefully just trying to buy different things, focus on the things that you know, focus on the things that would matter, and you double down on that. While we're in this down cycle, as you start studying and researching and finding something that you know the most, once you believe in it with so much conviction and you know and understand it the most, you double down on it. You put life-changing volume on stocks and cryptos that make the most sense to you, because that's what matters the most. Volume allocated on something that's worth it will do very, very well over the long term. And I guess I'll close it with this. Don't panic. Don't rely on your emotions. If you don't need to log in, if you don't need to check your portfolio on a regular basis, you don't have to. The more you check, the more emotional you become. The more you check, the more fear, the more uncertainty, the more doubt will start bubbling in your head. Make your decisions. Set certain points where when it hits this, you have a decision point. Will I buy? Will I sell? Will I hold? Will I avoid? If this happens, set a decision point. Will I buy? Will I sell? Will I hold? Will I avoid? If none of those conditions are met, then everything else is just noise. Everything else are not worth your time. Anything else are not worth your attention. And the money is not in how much you monitor. The money is in how much you've studied, built a conviction, and allocated capital off of it. And once those conditions are no longer there, once the conditions on why you went into that particular position are no longer there, then by all means sell. But if you're selling just because of panic, just because it's down, just because everyone else is also selling, but if you're selling just because out of fear, then that's something that will help you lose money repeatedly over the long term. What you need to focus on is, aside from that, is to build a skill right now. The best time for you to be able to get better, the best time for you to be able to build the proper skill set in investing is when times are uncertain, is when times are bad, is when people are scared, is when people don't want to invest. Because when you build the skill right now, when it's bare, when you build the skill right now, when everyone's scared, when you build a skill right now, it's something that you could use over and over when the markets are good. It's something that you can use over and over when the markets also get bad later on. And I think that's more important. But I'll say this to all of you. Don't focus on the money first. Focus on building a skill. Because when you focus on building a skill, the money will follow later on. Everyone focuses on how much they can get, what ROI they can get, when they fail to realize the ROI of any investment is in whose hand is it on. The ROI of any investment is in what skill you have in that particular endeavor, regardless if it's a business enterprise or it's an investment. the heights of how it will go is dependent on how much skill set you have in it also. So spend a lot of time to build your skill, spend a lot of time to do better, spend a lot of time for you to be able to know what you're supposed to do in this particular season. If you want to learn more about technical analysis, fundamental analysis, webinars down below. We also have an investment 101 masterclass which talks about stocks, crypto, Bitcoin, NFTs, REITs, bonds, and so much more. And I also have written books which are available via Shopee that you can order and will be sent to your address as well. If you made it up until the end, like, share, subscribe, and smash the bell so you get updated every time I come up with new content about investing. And lastly, if you guys have any questions, put them down below and I'll do my best to be able to answer your questions. So that's it for now. Marvingermo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon and God bless you all.